I am grateful for all the people in this room because they all brought me something very important in me. I am grateful for the fact that I moved to the Netherlands because it was really a great idea. They are mocking my English. I had an exam for my English this morning.
Not mocking.
And I didn't.
They're not. They're mocking my English.
It's English syntax, right?
This time
It's English syntax, right? Elena.
What?
They're mocking my English.
Mocking.
Yeah.
We are arts and culture students.
I know. Can I say my idea on that? I think yes, they should. But at the same time, I, as a French person, between like 10 and 14, we have to learn about arts and music. And it was like 2 classes that I did not like at the time because I think the teachers suck.
Yeah, me too.
And
this is following on from Hannah's point. The problem can also be teachers like not inspiring students enough, because my creative pursuits were never like pushed by the school, and I always, since I was like 5, I was like, I want to be an actress. And they could not care less. I was throwing myself into like every single like acting performance. I was like giving it my all, and they were like recycling the same 4 girls as like the main roles. What was I every time? I was like the fucking man, because they're like tall girl, your perfect boyfriend height. Yes, tall girl. Let me just. This won't give you any long-term damage in terms of your acting career. Favoritism was a big problem at my school. We did not get like a mention, like not a single mention. It's like if you're not number 1, you're not even worth like being brought up.
But going back to the arts thing that you were saying about like how like being taught arts from a young age, I think the way that art is taught from a young age needs to be different. I think they teach young kids maybe theory a bit too much, whereas if you made everything sensory and practical based, and it was them learning about how to interact with the world on like a sensory level, like that's really good for your psychology. And there's these schools called Steiner schools, I think. So I think that is like more schools should be like that and take a more holistic approach rather than just like learning by rote, as it were.
I just wanted to say that I remember when I was like in kindergarten. So hard. At the end of the year, we always had like this theater piece, like that we had to play the theater play. Actually, I don't know why I'm using such big words, but theater play. And I remember I having a blast at them. I really had a great time, and then it made me in love with like fall in love with theater, and then I pursue into my own things and stuff. Yeah, I used to love being on stage, and like I don't know, it gave me so much freedom, and I was like, I'm talking, like people are listening to me. They used to teach it, but like in France, it's like if you decide to be an artist or like you want to work in like the art field, you're like, it's not a job. They're like, it's not a job because you're gonna be paid less than like if you're a lawyer. You should be a lawyer or a doctor.
And you're like, feel like it's not
exactly. And I'm like, you are teaching us that. You're saying it's so important, but you don't want us to be part of it. It works like that.
It's so true. The fact that you said like, oh, it's like they teach you that is so important and vital for everything, but they teach you also that it's not important enough to be pursued as a career.
Exactly. And I so disagree
in every
with that.
single form, like they tell you like, oh my god, arts is painting and stuff is so part of your past, but it's not going to be your future.
And I think it's so
and I
fucked
think
up.
that it is, because if it has been our past since we were like Neanderthals and stuff, probably it's going to be our future too.
If you think like the first humans, they were like fucking drawing in the walls.
I think on the topic of art seen in a proper way, I think there needs to be more figures that like encourage people who have a bit of talent, because when I was a kid, even growing up, like I had an affinity for like singing and acting and stuff like that, but I always felt like undervalued, because like people like my dad would be like, oh, you just do your acting or something, do your drama, like you're doing your drama. It was very like, he kind of diminished it, and there were some people who kind of pushed me through, because it's like it's really helped my mental health. Like it helped me escape stuff, and difficult stuff has probably been a reason why like I'm here today, because of people who encouraged me. Like, I remember one teacher, when I was a kid, I sang and she was like, "Oh my days, you're really good," or like, "Oh, you have a voice of an angel," and I was like, even if I didn't, it's like that encouragement like helped me keep singing. You know, I kind of need to sing as part of a choir to be mentally okay. I always look back fondly, and it's like, if I didn't have those figures in my life encouraging you to do the arts, even if it is a hobby, and not diminishing it as anything, just it being seen as enough, there'll be a lot of kids who'll be a lot happier, and also like there needs to be less of a stigma towards it.
Yeah.
Recentering the topic about the fact that like adults are like, yeah, arts can't be a job. My parents told me that, which I think is very hypocritical, because both of my parents like met on stage and were like comedians, and like they were very like skeptical when I said that I wanted to pursue like a career in like theater. They were like, "Oh no, but you can't make a job out of it." Like, if they tell me that, then yeah.
I wanted to say that like the most famous and well-known people in the whole world are artists.
Relating back to the way art is taught, and also relating back to childhood stuff, teachers are the reason they can't motivate people, and the reason they're not inspiring people is because they are unmotivated and uninspired themselves. Because in the UK they are treated so poorly. Like, my mum is an art teacher. Well, she was head of like art and DT for a long time. Now she's the head of like an early years department. But it's the most like overlooked thing ever, just to be any form of teacher, because parents aren't really taught how to parent anymore because of the issues we were talking about. They don't maybe read to their children or introduce their children to art in like a healthy setting where you're able to be messy with it and a bit crazy and avant-garde with it. Because I teach kids GCSE English, and they was like, "I hate poetry, I literally hate it." I'm like, why? It's so much fun. It's like the easiest form of anything ever. And either that's just because my mind works with it, or it's because I've been lucky enough to grow up in an environment where like my dad sends me poems all the time, and like we talk about poets all the time. Like, my dad loves poetry. But like everyone should be able to have that. It's because it's like a self-serving cycle. And obviously there are more bigger problems in the world than like, oh, your parents didn't read poetry to you. Like, my dad like could even put food on my table. Like, you know.
In terms of like, teachers need to be paid more. Like how do you define art? Like you know, like the Greeks kind of viewed it as something as being, but like fidelity. Like, what's the most lifelike? And then that kind of stuck around for a long time, and this is what we're learning in our course. That stuck around for a long time until kind of cameras came about, and then they were like, well, we don't really need to be that accurate to the eye now anymore. And then spiraled. There was this guy I saw in a video who like snuck into the Tate, and because, well, not snuck in, he went in as a guest because he brought his own thing that he printed, and he was just like, it was just a poster that said, "This means nothing," and then it was like a random little like cartoon tentacle coming up from the ground, like on a white poster, and he just went and put that up in the Tate, and he just kept saying like, "I don't like modern art because, you know, like people would look at anything and just be like, yeah, that's art," and like, fair enough. So he put that up, and then like there were people like wandering and like taking pictures of it, like, "This means nothing." But then the very thing of putting like I watched that, I was like, the very thing of putting "this means nothing" makes it mean something.
Yeah.
Like, you see this means nothing, and it means something to you because it's a critique to the fact that art means nothing, and then you're like, okay, and you think about it, and it creates like a discourse,
a discourse.
I don't know.
A discourse.
If it sparks something, a thought, an emotion, anything in someone else, I believe it is art.
But then that's too loose of a description.
That's so
loose.
Everything.
Like, anything can spark a meaning.
That is why I believe. That's why I think art is so important, because in my brain, art is literally everything. The reason why art is in our world is because we brought it there. Like, it came from within. It came from a place inside a human, in humans that are like, okay, I need to. It's kind of like the gods, you know. It's like theology.
That's terrifying.
Like, God is also something that we invented, we created, we needed. So it came from within. It's not something that was like
Santa Claus
given.
For 97% of human history, we have been hunter-gatherers. let that sink in. No, gatherers. We hunted galleries. The pursuit of the arts. It's just about how in that time, obviously, creatives would have been pursued because that's what we would have done all day. Like when we were hunter-gathering, like we didn't work for many hours of the day actually. Like it was very short, and the rest of the time they basically sat in drum circles, having a fucking blast. No.
Well, they might.
They probably did actually, orgies as well. They probably just had a great fucking time. I'm not like they probably. Why can we not be naked?